Yes. Yeah. Something happens to just so fast. So I don't know. I just went Art's good. This time of year. Here's for us. 5 years. Yes. A little bit.
Everybody, get the party started. So first of all, welcome. Let's get the show. Yeah. Welcome to AI 201. We're excited to kick off our second round of training. Are you excited? We got a full room, standing room only almost. So you're in for a treat. Today and tomorrow are going to be a whirlwind of fun. Just get ready. It's going to be great. Yeah. How many of you are here for 101? I recognize quite a few of you. Looks like a lot of you came back. That's good. You like Nick, right?
Yeah.
The survey says you really like Nick. So thanks for filling out the survey. We'll do that again after this session too. This is being recorded for training and all the purposes. So it'll be on YouTube live. So if for some reason you want to watch it later or share the link, feel free. So Haley will be getting those out through our social media. But got a little bit of housekeeping to do, and then we're going to get right into it. So today's AI 201, work with AI. Of course, we're on this journey of 101, 201, 301. We do have that planned in July. How many of you are already registered for the 301? Some of you. So we'll be talking more about that, of course. That's more build with AI. Today is all about automation, workflows, finding ways to be more efficient, streamline your day-to-day processes with AI, which will be really fun. So basically, here's the oh, and by the way, should have seen this already, but if for some reason you didn't, take a photo and get connected. Anybody having connection issues, Wi-Fi issues? Good. All right. So this will be kind of the flow. So we're here till about lunchtime-ish, 11:30, 12. We'll be taking a break in the middle. The whole goal today is practical AI. So we're really wanting to make this as practical as possible. Lots of chances for you to actually practice, actually set up your instance, talk to your neighbors. So very interactive, ask questions. Today is a little bit more of the teaching. Tomorrow is a little bit more of the doing. But we'll have a lot of opportunities for you to really take back a handful of very specific things that you can start using right away. That's the ultimate goal. So that's the flow for our day. Just a quick snapshot of what this is, AI for Good. I think a lot of you know what we're building here in Sacramento. We're really about building this community of nonprofits, leaders, builders, all centered on the idea about how can we use AI to strengthen organizations, create impact locally here and beyond. So this is a room full of nonprofit leaders, business leaders, community leaders, all of you centered on the idea that we think we can use AI to do good things in our world. There's a lot of bad that comes with AI too, and we know that. We're centering this conversation around how can we use this to create good. So that's what we're doing today. Again, I talked about this, but here's the dates and details. We will be having our AI hackathon happening August 17th to 21st. You'll be hearing more about that. There will be an application process after the fast pitch applications are done, end of this month, so July. Those applications will open for the AI hackathon. So if as we talk through this, if any of you start thinking about a really cool app idea or problem to solve with AI through more of a 301 lens, building technology, start thinking about that. And maybe you could be part of our hackathon in August. And for those of you that want to be part of a team, a build team, we'll be taking applications for that side of the conversation as well. So that's happening in August. We're going to end cap that week with a big showcase event on the 21st. It'll be a luncheon, AI for Good. It'll be an AI and philanthropy luncheon. You're probably in Rancho Cordova. And we'll be showcasing the 5 apps that we built that week, but also having a little bit of a state of AI and philanthropy conversations, some speakers. So I think you'll find that interesting. It's the 21st lunch. So plan on joining us for that. Who's here? So this is cool. Just so you can kind of get a flavor of the different organizations in the room. Raise your hand if you're on there. Everything's on. Yep. So, one of the things I always encourage in spaces like this is, we're all coming from a place of trying to make our communities better in some way. That's why you're here. That's why you do the work that you do. So it's just naturally a room full of really great people. So don't leave without making some new friends today and tomorrow. So plan on making some new friends, be social. And, obviously we're in this community centered around AI and we're learning together. And because as a society, we're learning together. So this is a time for us to share what's working, ask questions, be curious, and see where this goes. So speaking of my last couple things, Friday, we'll be doing a demo day. It's a virtual webinar, 3 o'clock. on Friday. If you'd like to attend, it's Big Brothers Big Sisters went through our last hackathon process. They built an app. There's Jenny back there. We built an app with them, and they actually loved it so much that they've taken that same app and vibe coded additional things to it, and they're going to show off all the things they have built and also how they did it. So if you want to kind of see behind the curtain, like how to build an app, just to watch it happen, that'll be Friday 3 o'clock. Free, of course. Just join a Zoom, and you can find all of this information on the SVP AI website, which is ai.svpsacramento.org, or just go to SVP's website and find the AI for Good link there. So that's Friday. And then the other thing we're starting is AI show and tell. So we're going to try this 4 weeks starting Monday. Again, Zoom drop in. Again, just be curious. It's show and tell, 30 minutes, no real agenda. Just if you have something cool you're doing with AI and you want to share it, or you just want to come be a fly on the wall and listen to other people talk about what they're doing. It's practical AI in the real world. 30 minutes, 8:30 to 9, free. Drop in if you'd like. I think we have 10 or 15 people signed up for that already for this Monday. We're going to try it for 4 weeks. You know, and if it's interesting, we might continue it. If not, we'll just call it good. But just drop in style event. So join us if you'd like. I did make myself some notes. And the last thing I have is our room hosts. Raise your hand, room hosts. We have Anthony, Drew, Peyton, Dylan, Dennis. So we have nobody here is really an expert. Maybe they're a little further along in their AI journey. So feel free to tap them for questions, at least during the breaks, or as we do breakout sessions, they'll be roaming the room, just offering us advice and assistance as needed. Okay. What am I missing?
Did you want to share the results from the survey?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I didn't put that on my notes. But yeah, you guys, thank you for filling out this survey. This is kind of interesting to see. So we sent this survey out just to kind of get a flavor of who's in the room, what systems everybody's using. So pretty self-explanatory. You can see looks like a lot of you are using ChatGPT. Good to know. I found this interesting, and Nick's going to address this. If you're not paying for AI, you're the product. So you should be paying for the $20 a month, unless you don't mind your data being shared. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Most interesting, though, and how we're measuring the progress of today, and then at the end of tomorrow, we'll ask you the same question. We asked this question in the last survey, and it was very telling. We moved everybody to the right. That's our goal, right? So those of you that are feeling intimidated or curious or experimenting, or we called it comfortable or empowered. So those are kind of our 5 categories. So, thanks for the people that filled this out, and think about this for tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully you're further along in your journey. Okay. That's it, I think, for me. Next up, we have Nick. So let's give Nick a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay? They tried to mic me up last time, and I was just good without it. I felt like it works. I don't have a problem being loud enough. If you do have a problem here, let me know. I will mic myself up. My voice has decided that today was a great day to start to go, but we're gonna. This is the wedge. Because there are a lot of people here from 101, I'd love to just add in just a couple minutes to start with anyone from 101 who would like to share anything that's happened over the last 3 weeks since we finished the 101 workshop. Something that's happened, a new way that you've used AI, something that it helped you accomplish, anything that was a takeaway or influenced by the AI 101 workshop over the last 3 weeks. Like 2 people to share. Go for it, Rachel.
I went ahead, and we have a paid version of Block now. We went ahead and we connected our drive to Quad and certain others.
OneDrive?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
And so what that enabled me to do is I was able to just tell Quad, hey, look for this specific article in this folder and give me a summary of it, which has kind of helped speed up the process of having to do kind of this review and find the information myself. And so that would apply to pretty much anything else that would be in that drive. So it really sped up that process.
Awesome. Yeah. Anybody else for 101? Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk about 201 because for me, this is where it gets really accessible and really applicable. There's a lot of great things that you can do within chat, but once you get into the 201 space and you're talking about workspaces, it's where things get really, really exciting. And I'm grateful to help steer the conversation over the next couple mornings because in the social venture like space and with nonprofits, I've seen it create a whole new world of like access and equity that just like we haven't seen before. And I think that that's a really, really powerful way to use it, way to go, which I know is why we're all together today. So I want to start just by kind of aligning us around the promise of these 2 mornings together. It's to gain confidence and some clarity in AI workspaces, what they are, how to use them, and how to get them set up. We all still in the right room? Phenomenal. That's a great way to go. The plan of how we're going to achieve that promise over the next 2 mornings together is today I'm going to talk through those very things. What is a workspace? Even though the survey said that many people are kind of interested or kind of dabbling in it all the way to like confident, some people are intimidated. I've found that even if you've been using it for a while, sometimes there's still this gap of knowledge and understanding and really what's going on underneath the hood. And so the better that you can understand what's happening in the background, the easier it is for you to start to make faster connections about how you can use it in your organization because you understand how it works. So we're going to talk about what it is, who creates them. We'll talk about the differences in the different like platform options, the big three at least, Chat, Gemini, and Claude. We'll go through how to use the workspaces after the break and I'll just share my screen and we'll go through some live examples of setting up projects. And that's a little bit more of the what buttons do I press and what does this side panel do? And for anyone who has a little bit of technology anxiety over where do I click and what does this mean? Anybody else have some of that like I do? Okay. And then tomorrow we've got a couple case studies. These are just some, like the room host or Brad, or just a couple examples of different inspirations and ways that people are setting up workspaces within the nonprofit space to achieve some outcomes. And then, like Brad mentioned, tomorrow we're going to have about an hour of workshop time because and I know SVP is interested in this as well, would like to take the promise of these couple mornings and just up the ante a little bit and ensure that everybody leaves tomorrow morning with at least, and I know we can get there, at least one workspace set up for you and with one workflow going so that you feel stoked about it. I honestly think we can get most of you to 2 or 3 if you have the ideas out there. We've got great room hosts who will be going around. So for that full hour, I say let's get that build done. We can answer questions. It's why we're doing something in person and not in line or online, so we can take the time to do that and make sure that you leave not just with better understanding, but with better tools in the setup done to just really kind of shortcut that for you. Okay. And so we're going to have an hour to do that. And then we'll have some time for Q&A throughout. In fact, just to address the questions, I'll talk for 20 minutes or so. And then I'll open it up and have like a dedicated time for questions. So if you have questions, just write them down or remember them if you're capable of doing that. And then I'll go ahead and I'll throw this slide up at the end of every little kind of teaching moment. And then we can have like time for group discussions, group questions, and then we can do that kind of all at once. Okay? All right. To start, I'd love to hear a little bit from you guys, even though I clarified the promise of today. Like, what's one goal you're hoping this workshop helps you achieve, or a problem you're facing right now that you hope it helps you solve? We keep it small enough so that we can actually like kind of have the interaction. So that, yes.
I want to get co-work working.
Okay. Okay. Do you already have co-work and it's not working for you?
No, I just haven't delved into it because I just don't know what to give it. Like I want to give it access,
Okay.
but I don't want to give it too much access. And I'm a
Okay.
little concerned about the security of it and
Okay.
their just recent launch, right? Of whatever that was, that they pulled back, the US pulled back on it. Why?
Yeah.
You know, that other extension.
Yeah.
Anyways, so those are the questions I have.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm actually creating an app for a person who wasn't able to make it today. And So one of my questions is, all right, once the app is created, which we can do, I did that in 101.
Okay.
How do I make it so that it can go to wherever they need it, whether it's on their website or what, how do I get that?
Got it. So you need like a front end for the app that you're building?
Yeah.
That you're saying? Yeah. Okay. We've got some good room hosts that can help with that too, as well to kind of talk through. Brad, especially, is a good one for that. And Drew, they do a lot of that. Yeah.
Just operational efficiency in terms of like filling out reports and doing that kind of stuff. And then having an app posted someplace that they can log into in order to achieve all that,
Okay.
so that I don't have to worry.
Okay. Yeah. So you can just, yeah, you're somewhere else and not in the picture.
I like that.
Yeah. Like that. That's the goal, right? That's promise. Okay. So to build on where we're starting, right? In 101, we talked about tasks, better prompts, better results. The difference in 201, and what we're going to step into the middle ground between chat and doing a full like app build, which some of you are kind of in the process of. The middle ground with these workspaces and what you're speaking to is now we're getting into like delegating. And that's the big evolution from just talking and using chat in an ask feature and getting the port where we can kind of hand off a task and find ways to set it up to connect the right things and give it the right context and access to the stuff we want and no access to the stuff we don't want, but enough for it to be able to actually connect the dots and help us achieve our goals and produce a quality outcome that we can actually use instead of just giving us something that just triples the amount of time we have to spend on the task anyway, right? We covered this in 101 with it being a predictive machine, right? The LLM is just predicting the next word in a sequence, and it really likes to predict safe. It errs on the side of predicting safe, which is where we get AI slop from. It's why AI slop is just generic information, is because if AI is going to give you an answer, it's going to default to probably what the most likely common answer is, which gives us an answer, but it's not always the most exciting. And it's also, it leads to hallucinations because AI will default to showing you what it thinks should be there if it thinks that's the right answer, versus always using exactly what's there if it doesn't have enough context, which is why we covered that better prompting, giving it better context, giving it better goals, giving it more specific details is the path to overcoming a lot of that AI slop and the hallucination factors that are in play. If you have any questions about the 101 stuff, again, that's still fair game, or you can talk to me during the break or after. I'd be happy to kind of go into more depth about LLMs and the operations there. But what's the difference then? Because in workspaces and in projects, we have chats. So how does this really evolve? How do we really go from having a conversation to being able to handing off a task? And when I say workspace, specifically what I'm referring to is something like Claude Cowork, not Claude Chat, but Cowork. Or when you go into, since many of you are using ChatGPT, which I'll do a demo in today since that's most of the room. When you go in, you start using a project, okay? Or in Gemini, if you're using notebooks now. They used to be gems, now they're notebooks. Changes quick. They don't know where they're going. Why would we know where they're going? That's what I'm talking about with workspace, because now we're actually starting to set things up beyond just the capacity of having a conversation with an LLM, where a chat is largely the volume of work that goes through that is asking for help, asking for advisement. Can you review this? Can you help me brainstorm this? Can you look at what I did and edit it or improve it? Can you please write this and then I'll fix it, I'll edit it, I'll improve it, I'll look over it. And with workspaces, we start to get into delegating a little bit more. We go from a conversation of, can you help me do this thing on my to-do list, to, can you just take this task off of my to-do list? Which I think is amazing. I know so many of you have experienced it. I will, just as a disclaimer, on behalf of all of the wonderful internet gurus who are sharing the promise of you being able to sip pina coladas on a beach all day thanks to AI, I will tell you that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be busy anymore.
Boo.
You will also, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But I imagine that all of you have started a load of laundry in the last week. And I also would bet that none of you decided to just treat yourself to an hour of you time, because without the washing machine, you would have been standing over a basin and a washboard. And so now you have that time back, might as well spend it on yourself. I've been using AI for almost 2 years every single day in my work. And my wonderful wife still comes to me every now and then and says, "How many hours you planning to work this week?" Which may say more about me than AI. But the reason I bring that up is because I've heard from people get express frustration. They're like, "I'm using AI and I'm still busy." I'm like, "Yes, and you're changing the way that you work. And the things that you're working on are changing. Yes, you're busy, but you know what? You're having more conversations you didn't have time for before, because the things that you're working on now are more relational driven than you spending 6 hours trying to write a newsletter." And I've talked to some executive directors and they're like, "Well, of course I'm still just as busy. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit. That's not going to change." However, I was able to have one more coffee meeting this week than I would have, because I was able to finish the grant application a little bit quicker. So if you still find yourself busy while using AI, it's not because you're broken or it's broken or something's wrong. It's just because that's our nature. We're going to find ways to work in a more efficient and effective way. And we're going to find ways to work on tasks that only we can do. And we're going to continue to evolve in doing that. And I think that that's what's great about being able to delegate tasks. It's not going to get to a point where, like, here you go, and then all my work is done. That's not going to happen in the next 2 months. But what can happen is you can say, here's something I spend more time on than I want to. Here's something that I don't think that I have to be involved in for 100% of the process. And we'll find ways to get some of that time back for you, or find ways to make that outcome more consistent, or find ways for you to be able to invite other people, like volunteers in your organization who might want to help out, but it's hard to hand stuff off. You might be able to find some pathways to make that a little bit more accessible and achievable. Okay? All right. So workspaces at their core are about delegating multi-step tasks to agents. If in the next 2 mornings, all you walk away with is this internalized understanding of this concept, you will be able to just run with it and kind of test and fail and iterate your way to wherever it is that you want to go. But this is the simplest way that I can explain what's happening underneath the hood of a workspace. We're delegating multi-step tasks, not just simple question and answer things, multi-step tasks to agents in order to accomplish that task. Chat can help you do the work. A workspace will do the work for you. Here's an example of like a side-by-side comparison of how I would use this in chat. And you can say something like, "Can you help me write a nonprofit newsletter? Here's what happened this month." And then you can kind of go from there. That's an example of how we interact with chat. "Help me do this. Here's what I know. Please go through there." In Cowork, here's how this changes. You could say this is Claude Cowork, but also could happen in a project. Look through the past newsletters in my communications folder. And this month's program updates from the program directors in my email, put it all together and write this month's newsletter in our voice. And save the draft as a doc in my Google Drive when it's done. 2 very different use cases, right? Here we have access to tools. We have additional context. We've given it access to folders. I give it access to my email because I like to live dangerous. We also have the capacity, and this one's one of my favorites, save the draft as a doc in my Google Drive when it's done, because then it's easy for me to either share with somebody else, or if I already have something set up where I know that a volunteer is going to help with edit and putting it into MailChimp or Constant Contact and Bloomerang and sending it out. If they just know to expect on Monday morning that there's something in Google Docs, then great, it's there and it's done, right? You see the way that we're kind of evolving this from a "please help me do this," which is really, really good on the one-on-one side, to "here's what you need and here's what I want. Have fun," right? Please go do the thing. So we're going to walk through, and I'll put this up again, because I see people taking pictures of it. This will come up again because I will show you the breakdown of this prompt and how we connect the dots and actually set this up within the software itself. Okay? Is this exciting for everybody? You get here? That's what I'm talking about. All right. So here's the shift. When you talk through chat, what you do is you ask a question, you get an answer. AI kind of advises, it drafts things, it responds to you. Really powerful, really, really helpful. You still kind of do the work. You just have a little bit of help along the way, right? This is the experience that we have when you ask it to write something and then you're like, shoot, I've got to kind of rewrite this whole thing. Or, you can get better results through better prompting, but you're still kind of executing the work. With a workspace, you're handing off outcomes. You're asking it to do you're assigning it a goal, saying, I would like this to be done, please. And you're going to hand it off. A workspace has the capacity to self-plan the steps, especially Claude. It has in Cowork, it even has a panel you will see that will show you the plan that it creates for itself, and then you will watch it check off the steps as it goes through its own plan to accomplish the goal. It will execute on the work, and then it will deliver an outcome. But you still, and this is important, because I told you, well, except for you guys can't just resign to pina coladas yet. Still review the work. AI is not perfect, and AI will never be you, and it will never be your organization, and it will never be the heartbeat of the work that you do or the people who come through your organization. So you still need to review it. But there's a lot of processing that happens in the middle that we're going to be able to build upon. And also, what I love is that you don't have to repeat it again and again and again. Is there a question? I'm almost there. Most of the questions. Is it okay? Okay. It's good to see you again. See, there it is.
Less of a question, more of a statement, but I'm curious what you think. So Linux recently commented on their official stance on AI use. Their determination is that the human is still legally responsible for all code and all output.
Yeah.
And no one can ever say AI did it. That's BS. You did it. That's my statement. There's no question, but I think it's
Interesting enough, before I got into the nonprofit space, I worked with larger businesses and brands to do their video marketing. And one of my main clients was Lytx that I worked with every year on a lot of their video camera technology. And they've had that stance like throughout, even like 10 years ago, they were making comments on even a lot of that with like reporting for all of their like commercial vehicles and all the overseas stuff and everything. So that's pretty on par for them to be able to continue to do that because they've always been in that kind of like space. So I can also speak to the depth of their legal team and how this anyway. Separate conversation. Any other questions? Good so far? Okay. It's crystal clear. I want to look at a few common terms that get thrown around. I've brought up almost all of them to this point. Brad mentioned a few, but I've heard them used sometimes interchangeably incorrectly, and sometimes I've heard people kind of ask me, like, it's easy to get kind of confused because they get thrown out there a lot, but it's important for us to understand the distinction, especially between just these four for the context of understanding workspaces. Because I mentioned workflows, and I said we get workflows to an agent, but then we've also heard that we're supposed to be automating things, but I don't see automation in chat. I see projects. So is a project an agent, or am I building a workflow? But what's an agent do? Does this resonate with anybody? Like, I don't, if my board asks me, are we using agents? I'm like, probably. Let's go with yes, if that shortens the meeting. So let's talk through these because it's kind of the foundational terminology for what we're going for. Workflow is just the what? It's a multi-step process. This is what you're going to get clarity on yourself so that you have clear direction to hand the agent. So remember, workspaces are just the transfer of equipping agents with workflows so that they can achieve that outcome for you. I mentioned this in AI 101, but it's worth mentioning again. The greatest gift that working with AI has given me is not any outcome that it has done or any workflow that it has completed. It is the fact that it has forced me to take time I never would have taken otherwise to sit down and clarify what I'm doing and why and what the steps are. It always was just like, I know what I want to do. And so I just kind of go do it. And then my brain figures it out. And I just kind of, you find your own rhythm and your own process. And it lives in your head and you just kind of do your job. And that doesn't work. The greatest irony, and I think one of the most beautiful parts of using a workspace is that the best way to start, I truly believe, is with a piece of paper and a pen. And you just put the computer aside for 30 minutes to an hour and you say, this is what I want to get done. However simple or complex it may be, this works great with the apps too, is I will start without my computer in the room and I will just have paper and pen and I will write down like, well, if I'm writing a newsletter, what actually are the steps? Like what do I do? And it is very humbling and kind of scary how difficult it is for me sometimes to even articulate my own process. But if you can't articulate it yourself, then it's going to be very difficult for AI to just kind of magically get it. Now, there's some really wonderful things, and AI is, smarter than we realize in a lot of ways, where it kind of picks up on things you didn't think it would pick up on. But in order for it to do what you want it to do, it still needs clarity, just like handing off a task to another person. And so a workflow is really just how clear can you be about the steps in a process to go from where you're starting to the outcome that you want to achieve. Because the clearer you are, the easier it is to jump into your workspace, set it up, and get to a result that you're going to like a lot faster. And I promise you that starts with pen and paper, which is just amazing. This is the Henry Ford like assembly line coming to like your personal productivity. And when most people think about that, they think about it through the sense of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Step 1, step 2, step 3, assembly line. We're doing this at scale. Great. I think that the brilliance of the assembly line that doesn't go discussed enough is not the fact that it just gets something done at scale, step 1 through to the end. It's the fact that it took a process out of somebody's mind and it made it visible and known to other people. The reason that you are a bottleneck or that someone on your team is a bottleneck sometimes is because we have this understanding of what's in our own mind of like, this is how I do things, but that's the only place that it lives. As soon as you can articulate step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is how I write a nonprofit newsletter. It can live outside of your own mind and be visible to other people, and therefore you don't have to be there every time in order to run it. Right? It can go on without you. Somebody else can do it without you because it's visible, it's seen, it's known. The Henry Ford assembly line was the execution of something that was in the minds of 2 to 3 engineers that they had who knew how to build a car. And he's like, I can't rely on waiting for you 3 to build a car. I need to take what's in your mind and I need to make it visible and transparent to everybody else here. And as soon as we do that, we can all work together in a different way. And that's kind of what you're doing here with workflows. You're taking what's in your mind and you being the bottleneck for, and you're clarifying it in a way where you can share it and you can work through it. I spent all of last summer programming and building an app to help nonprofits with creating and writing content. And I really enjoyed the process, and I ended up having some paid clients that were on the app, which is wonderful. And then all this stuff came out. And I spent the summer building. I spent the fall like onboarding and shipping. And then I spent the spring offboarding every single client. closing down the app and migrating them all onto one of these workspaces and just going step by step with them and saying, here's how you can do everything. You know, that app, great. I'm glad that you're using it. I'm glad you love it. But like, this is the right choice for you. I wish they would have told me they were going to do this 6 months after I invested my summer into it, but this is the best next step because it's just going to, it's just the right way to connect the dots since we've already kind of clarified the workflow. Okay. So I kind of walked through this. When you have newsletters, like you can start with the ideas. First thing I do is I collect ideas of what I want my next newsletter to be about, and then I usually draft something, and then I share it. I share it with either somebody on my team to review it, or I share it with the person who's going to format it and send it out, or I actually share it with the audience because I just put it into Constant Contact and shipped it. But even this is the start of a workflow, which is different than a task of like, please help me write a newsletter, Claude. This is the start of a multi-step process. And I'll show you how I at least approach kind of setting something like this up. You've already seen the Claude actual like prompt. That's an iteration of this. And I promise you it's true. And I know that you can trust me on that because I have 2 paying clients that are actually in the room. So you know that I'm speaking accurately. The agent is the who. This is who's doing the work. So when I say a workflow, I'm talking about what are the steps? What's the process? What are we doing? The agent is just the entity that is actually fulfilling the work and executing on that workflow. And that's why workspaces are just setting up those 2 things. If I have a clear workflow that I'm handing off to an agent, the agent is who is going to do it because the agent is equipped with things like memory, instructions, tools. And we can save these things when it does it right so that it can do it consistently and you don't have to write the same prompt again and again and again and again. Or if you're working across different programs or you're working across a variety of different clients, if you have a workflow that works for one, you can easily migrate it to the other client or a different project, and you can kind of keep going from there so that you can save and scale all of the setup that you guys do. Agents, kind of basic setup when we think of them and like what's an AI agent, kind of works like this. You'll give an agent a goal and their ultimate desire is to get you to the outcome, right? But they do that by way of using things like context, instructions, and tools. There's also memory, but that's kind of that's baked into the background now. You used to have to connect a memory to the agent yourself, and now for the workspaces at least, it comes with that state management. And agents are different than workflows because workflows happen first step to last step, same order, same way, assembly line, every time. You start here, you end there. We're going to go through the same steps. That's going to be unchanging. And we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next time it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's no skipping and there's no reorganizing. It's just we're going through the process. Agents are different because they will listen to the goal and then they will choose the order in which they go about doing things based on what it thinks is the most efficient or effective path. So an agent, if you handed the goal of doing, I'll just stick with the newsletter, an agent won't always just do the same sequence of events in the same time and give you the outcome. The agent might say first, like, oh, let me check my instructions for how I write newsletters. And now that I've reviewed that, let me go ahead and check the context, which is like what's in a folder that I have access to so that I know what I'm doing. And then let me go ahead and see what tools I have at my disposal to do the job. Let me double check my instructions. Okay, tools, got it. I can go into Gmail. Okay, got it. Okay, let me get the context out of Drive. Got it, write it, outcome. Okay, so it has a bit more autonomy to listen to the goal and then review all of the things it has at its disposal to do the goal and produce the outcome. Does that make sense? The basic level? It's kind of like a person. It's kind of like our technology continuing to imitate real life, where we set somebody up with instructions and we say, hello, new, wonderful, high capacity volunteer. Here's what I would love. Here are the things that I can give you, whether it's access to software, or physical tools or instructions. Here's what we know. You just set people up for success. And then you trust that when you ask that person to do something, that they can assess all the things they have at their disposal in order to get that job done and to do it well. If the outcome comes out and it's brilliant, then you get praised because you know how to hire people well. And if it's terrible, well, then you need to hire an HR director because hiring's not your thing, right? But this is the difference between like an agent and then just kind of a straight workflow. It has the agency to be able to assess the gap between where you're starting and where you want to be, and then to be able to leverage different tools at its disposal in order to get there. Okay. Automation is just, for our context, is about the web. Workspaces are not full-blown automation AI software. They're not quite there. There are ones out there like N8N that do things like that. And if you're interested in Mac 301, it's definitely a space for you. Or I'd be happy to talk to you about any of those kind of workflows afterwards. But automation is not a thing outside of it just being, can this happen without you triggering it? In Cowork, this looks like using the schedule feature, right, for workspaces. If you have a task that you wanted to do, you set up the workflow and the agent does it. If you just decide that you wanted to do this every Monday morning, then you can just schedule it to start and say, do this every Monday morning. Don't wait for me to tell you to do it. And you can set that up. So that's you automating the start, the trigger of a workflow in order for it to go. Your computer has to be on in order for it to do it. But when we talk about automation, I'm just talking about, do you have to push the button to say go, or is that scheduled and set up so that it just happens without you? You don't have to grimace. Actually, I just have one more slide. And then a project. It's just the container. This is an organizer for your workflows and for the agents. It is just the room in which you can separate between clients, between programs, between different goals, like writing a newsletter, completing grants, doing program research to look for any strengths or weaknesses, opportunities within your impact reports or programs from the last year. It's just the way that you organize where all of these conversations live and where the workflows and agents are. So projects themselves aren't agents. It's a folder where you keep everything and all the conversations or materials you want for the particular like workflow. Okay. So workflow, multi-step process. An agent is just who's doing the work. If we talk about automation, it's just removing you having to start that thing. You can schedule it. And then a project is just your organizing folder. That's within there. Are these terms a little bit clearer now for the people? I love the nodding heads. That's my favorite. Okay, so then your job then is to, in this process, if those are clear, as we're using workspaces, your job then becomes to clarify the workflow and set the agent up for success, and then review the outcome. All of those things need to be true. If you don't have a clear plan and we don't have agreed expectations, things can go sideways. If I ask you to paint my house and you say you're going to paint my house and that's the end of the conversation, oh boy, let's see what happens. Let's see what you think is a good color for the house, right? I need to clarify the expectations and the workflow. If we have clear expectations, but you don't have the tools that you need in order to go do the job that I asked you to do, then that's a whole nother problem. So I need to set you up for success. I can't just say, here's the expectations and here's the workflow. I need to consider what permissions I need to give AI in order to do that. And that might be a deciding point for you in being able to narrow down, what do I really want to set up a workspace to help me do? Because there might be some things and you say, well, in order for AI to do that, I've got to give it permission to this space or this information or this place. And that might be a non-starter for you, and that's fine. But then you know, okay, I'm not going to ask AI to do that because in order to do that, I've got to give it access to something I don't want to give it access to. So now I can take it off my mind, or at least take the pressure of feeling like I'm supposed to be using AI to solve all my problems off of my shoulders, because I know that I'm making that decision intentionally, right? Or there's other things you're like, yeah, I would love for AI to have access to this, fine. So what kinds of things can I ask it to do now that I know that I have given it access to these spots or these areas? And then review the outcomes, same as before. 2 reasons. 1, because it's good practice. 2, because you can iterate on all of these things and you can improve it. When you get an outcome, you can take the outcome and then you can provide AI with notes. And then it will update its process and it will learn how to write better instructions for itself. And then the next time you can just get that much closer to what you were really after and what you were looking to achieve. Okay? All right, we're there. Yes.
When you advocate when you say that providing the tools,
Mhm.
is that something that we do and articulate that? Or is that something that the agent picks up on and says, I know what tools to use here, so this is what I'm gonna do?
Those are the steps. So it happens in that order. So you will decide what tools to connect to your workspace, which could be in the instance of like Cowork, you give it access to a local folder where you have a certain amount of information. And then you connect it to Google Drive and you decide you want to connect it to Gmail at the same time. So you made the decision first of what am I handling? And then after that, it can then look at all of it and assess, oh, what should I use and what do I not need to use? Because if I ask it to write me a newsletter and it has access to my Google Calendar, it knows it doesn't need to go look at my Google Calendar to send a newsletter. Right? It doesn't need that tool.
I'm thinking about that in a different way, from the context of the tool being like, I write in Latin versus I write in English, right? Or I write code in Python script, or I write it in some other script.
Yeah.
Like, is it up to us to articulate that to it, or does it automatically pick up and say, oh, I know I'm gonna be writing a script and your history is in Python, so I'm gonna write it there.
Yeah, there are some things that are native to the workspaces. Like it knows how to read a PDF. You don't have to get access to a tool for it to read a PDF.
Right.
It knows any language, so you don't have to give it access to something to, like, there's existing capabilities within it. And so when I talk about tools, it's less about kind of the programming of how AI works. It's more about what tools from you personally are you giving it in order to interact with your work versus you having to teach it with your specific example of like, I code in this language versus this language, then instructions are a great spot for that. For telling it what you want it to do, because you can always say, hey, I'm always coding in Python, so just like that's the way I want to think about everything, and it will understand that that's what you're thinking, because you can give it that clear instructions. But tools are really just the bridge between what you're bringing to the table and where Claude's coming.
So it's more the infrastructure.
Right.
Of what you want to achieve.
Yes.
I can calendar a task for every Monday.
The question was, I can calendar a task for every Monday. ChatGPT, the answer is correct. It works better in Claude. Can't do it in chat. Your laptop has to be open because it needs to be on and the program needs to be going in order for it to run. If you're blessed with a morning where you can go and not start work at 9 a.m. and your laptop is closed, when you open it, it will just remind you, oh, there was something scheduled for 9 a.m. Do you want me to do that now? But otherwise, as long as your laptop's open, and now Claude has anyone used Dispatch at all? Because there are a handful of people who were on the survey of like real comfortable in it. Does anyone use Dispatch? Yes, some of our room hosts. Dispatch works with Claude, and essentially it's just a mobile like connection to your Claude desktop. So if I have like Cowork open and I'm at the park with my kids and I remembered I needed it to do something, I can use the app to tell it to go do that thing. And as long as my laptop's open, wherever I am in the world, it'll just run it, do its thing. So you can start to work remotely. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Takes my day.
We got a big smile. Okay, we're gonna get into the demo too.
In
Yes.
that example, if you have her example, what you just said, you're at the park,
Okay.
you launch it from that dispatch thing.
Yeah.
And you've given it access to your email,
Mhm.
and you then, well, I guess you'd want to review it first, of course, but it could then mail it for you or send it to whoever it needs to go to.
Yes. Like I could say, like I can do this like on my laptop. Dispatch just lets you do it from your phone, which has like the promise of like, oh, I could do it from anywhere. But also like, if you're not at your desk, people, leave your like, be in the world. Just like, don't try to work it. Like, trust me, it's not good. But yes, I could say, oh, I forgot to send Leisha the like key takeaways from the last team meeting. So I could ask Claude, I was like, can you please review the transcript from our last team meeting, pull the top 3 takeaways, and then send those in an email to Leisha. And then as long as it has the access to the things that it needs to do that, then it will understand what my goal is and it will evaluate the tools that it has, and then it will run that task. And then it will send you an email. Yeah. It won't sound as much like me, so you'll be disappointed because I know we have a
Yes.
good relationship. But yeah. Yes. And then
Skills, are we gonna talk about skills?
yeah, we're totally going to talk about skills. Skills are unique to Claude. It's kind of universal instructions. So in projects, you can give instructions of this is what I want you to do, and we're gonna look at that after the break. I'm gonna just start getting into like I'm gonna set stuff up for the first time and work through it, and then we can all just kind of do it together. So I think that's a great way to go about it. And then after we do that, like I'll talk about skills because skills are kind of the evolution that Claude has of instructions. It takes it from being constrained to a project to being something that can be universally applied. So if I decide I write, like in Gemini or chat, if I decide I want to write in instructions of how to write a newsletter, for example, it will work in that project. But if I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clients that I'm all helping with that same task, then I copy paste and kind of keep working across. But what skills does is it turns it into something that can be applied at any point in any instance within your Claude ecosystem. So I can say like, hey, you remember how we wrote a newsletter over here? Like, great, go write a newsletter here. So it's both in, yeah. But I will do a demo specifically where we walk through how to do it, how to set that up, because it's a multi-step process. Yes.
So that's a thought for like the automations. Let's say I wanted to send out like, set of emails on Monday.
Mhm.
That's only gonna work for my computer. It's not going to work like if I have the app on my phone. Is that what I'm understanding?
It will still, yes, because your computer is where it's actually going to run. So the app on your phone can be used to connect so that you can talk to it and tell it what you want to do.
Okay.
And you can see what it says back. But whatever laptop you have where your instance of Claude is running needs to be on and going in order for that to work.
Right.
So if you have it closed, if you tell something to Claude like remotely what you want it to do, then when you go back and you open it, it will remind you, hey, you asked me to do this. Do you still want to do it?
Okay.
So if you're like me and you think a lot on the go, like it's helpful to like take down notes and remember. But you need to have it open as of right now in order to run. And who knows how soon that will not be a thing anymore
Right.
and how fast they're going to solve that.
Follow up on that.
Yeah.
What if I use it on a couple different computers, like just for one account?
You, as long as the account has like the desktop app that open and you have access to one that's running on a computer,
Okay.
then it should be able to run.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think I was going here and then there. Yes.
So my, my follow-up questions are specifically around training the agent. So it sounds like it's almost like you have your own agent, you're training your own agent, although it does have some understanding that's built from broader contexts. And it seems like that would be the space where a lot of the development behind the scenes is happening most, like within Claude, and where the companies that are developing these apps and software are spending most of their time.
Yeah.
So are you finding that just when I'm getting used to exactly what I have to do to get the agent to do the work, the next time I go in to do it, it's like, oh, it knows how to do that already. And the last 5 times I had to do this for the agent, or I had to tell it, it now needs to know, am I training the agent? Is it the companies that are creating, a trained agent differently?
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, great question. So the question was around who's training the agent.
Yeah.
Is it
So-
us? Is it them? Who watches the Watchmen? Right.
Yeah.
And it's both and you can think of it in these terms. Like the technology is continuing to evolve. Right. 8 months ago, we couldn't have this workshop because it just literally didn't exist. And so it's important to keep that kind of in mind. SVP wants to spark conversations early and often within this space because then we're just better equipped to be able to understand how to navigate and move forward. But 8 months ago, we literally couldn't have hosted this. The training for the technology happens by the LLM, by the companies behind the scenes. They're trying to make the technology better and more user friendly. Like it is a hard push to being able to make it easier for everybody to access AI and to be able to use it. That's why workspaces were created to begin with. Because if before this, like last year, I could set these things up, but I had to do it through specific software that I had to kind of code in order to get steps to link together. And that's what I did with the app last summer. And now they said, we want to make that so user friendly that anyone and everyone can have access to kind of automating their own workflows. And it's made it all obsolete. Your training part for your particular agent is you customizing it and learning about you and your organization. So it's taking somebody who has a master's degree and all the training that they could from the traditional education, but then they come to work for you, they're going to learn your organization. They're going to learn how to apply everything that they know and understand from their education to your specific context. And then they're going to start to learn more about, this is how we do it here.
So can I just do a quick follow-up
Yeah.
observation statement?
The slides up, that's what
my HR, this is my HR background. I'm going, okay, so this is like me having a new employee.
Yes.
I basically have to have patience with building that employee skill set in
Yes.
the context of my company.
I described it in AI 101 when we kind of talked a little bit about 201 stuff. I described it as thinking about having the world's smartest intern. They can do anything and everything possible, but they are still 18 years old and this is still their first job. And there's just this marriage between what's possible from like education and technology and the application of how do we do it here? What are the expectations here? What are the guardrails? What are the do's and the do nots? You know, I had to still tell, like AI can do a lot of great writing stuff and Claude is a wonderful creative writer. I still wrote a prompt and included it in my instructions to tell it how to write with dignity framing when it's writing content for nonprofits. Because AI would still write something that would say, we have neighbors who can't afford groceries for their kids, so we're having a food drive, yada, 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 which is very different than saying we have neighbors who are having a hard time competing with inflation or who are affected more by the rise in gas and inflation and costs. And we want to show up to support them and make sure that no kids go to school hungry, right? And that's an important distinction in the nonprofit space of being able to frame when we're talking about people and the problems that we're facing. It's like, no, they're not broken as a person. Like we don't want to say, hey, look at these poor people, let's go help them. It's like, here are the problems in the world that we're all struggling with, and we're in a position to help. Like, let's do this together, right? But Claude didn't write like that naturally. So that's an example of I needed to say, when we talk about things in the nonprofit space, I need you to understand how important this is to what I'm doing. Somebody who's selling shoes in e-commerce doesn't have to tell it that same thing. They don't have the same problem. So it's the same education, but we got to find ways to kind of customize it and train it to when you write, this is my expectation for you, because that's what makes sense for me. Yeah. Is that helpful, like for the room? Gonna talk through? Okay, there was one over here. Yes, miss.
So my question is on dispatch. Is this an agent? Is this an AI tool? Is it on a separate platform? Can I use it to run payroll schedules if I do forget how?
Okay, so so the question is Dispatch its own agent, system, platform, tool? No, the Dispatch is just, think of it like a walkie-talkie to your Claude on your computer. So everything you just mentioned about payroll and scheduling and things of that nature, you'll set up on your desktop and you will set up to run in Claude. Dispatch is just kind of a walkie-talkie if you need to talk to it and you're not at your desk that moment. So you would have the workflow set up, and I love those ideas, and we should get those set up while you're here. And then Dispatch would just be like, oh, I forgot. Can you please run that? But you
So
also
what you're saying is that when I set that on code, I would have to kind of tie ADT or whatever program I use in working payroll to that code, right? Give it
you're going to have to
access.
find a way to do the connections.
Okay.
Yes, which we will cover.
Give it access.
Yes. Anybody else? Yes, miss.
Could you touch point on, you said something earlier, and then as you talked to this your HR about memory. And I just wanted to have you shared, what is the context for when you are working with an agent or even in chat?
Yeah.
What is the difference? Because what I've seen in my own experience is that when you're given an instruction, sometimes I've had to tell it stop in the middle and it'll stop completely
Mm-hmm.
and then redirect it. But when I would give it an instruction, it would say, well, I can't quite remember all of these. So if you go outside of this session.
Yeah.
So it has memory, but within that session.
Yeah.
So.
Within that chat, so it won't share if you have a bunch of Claude chats.
Yeah,
And
so.
talking about 7 different things, they won't understand what's going on.
Exactly. So if you close
Yeah.
out that session.
Yeah.
You have to start over.
You keep
There's
going.
there's an iteration within the chat.
Yeah.
And so there's been times, even in an age with the agent versus the workspace in the chat, where I've been able to get the chat AI to actually go back to something we said previously 2 days ago, but I'm still in that same session.
Yeah, so you can have like a long context window within a chat. And then if you get to the point where it starts to get it starts to seem like it's off, right? Because at some point we still overload like the chat threshold, the context window. And when you start to see that, it's like signs of somebody starting to like drift when you talk to them for too long.
Yeah.
They're like, okay. When you see that, my recommendation is always to like pass the baton. And you do that by telling the chat, like, hey, I'm going to continue this conversation in a new chat. Can you just write a prompt for me that captures everything we've talked about so I don't lose my work? And then I'm going to copy paste that into a new chat. That's a great way because you will need to sunset chats. And that is an area of technology where it's gotten a lot better. I like used to have to do that regularly a year ago, and now it's less common, but I still have to do it. The part about that can change with workspaces is that you can set up, if you have things you've always wanted to kind of remember, like who your organization is and who you serve, and you're tired of typing your EIN number into every grant application because that is unchanging. You can give it access to a folder that has all of that. And then every chat that you have will have access to that. So it's more of a customized saved memory bank for you. And every chat has access to it. It becomes a tool that it can reference. And that's kind of the evolution of, it's a common problem that people are running into with chat, that workspaces were introduced to, one of the ones that they were introduced to solve. Yeah.
Piggyback on what you're saying is there's the other piece of it. Because one of the first things I did when I first got, I was really reluctant to start with the AI, but one of the first things I did to try to get this human connection with it, so that it didn't feel robotic.
Yeah.
Is I actually asked it some really specific questions like, about emotions and behaviors and thoughts and stuff, because it can think, but sometimes it's thinking, like you said in AI 101, hallucinations.
Yeah.
Right?
What way they
It'll
think it's
come
supposed to
with
be.
great ideas, but it can have nothing to do with what you're trying to do or your context.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have done is, in addition, is when it starts to give back to me human behavior, I'll tell it to stop, and I'm like, you told me you can't feel.
You lied to me,
I'll
chat.
tell it straight up, hey, you can't feel anger, so don't tell me about anger if, in your comments back to me, because it's giving me cognitive dissonance here. You're saying that you really don't get into the emotions and stuff, but in your response back to me, you talk about, feelings, or you're saying, oh, I understand that you might feel a little angry, but how do you know that? Right?
Instructions are really helpful because you can tell it in the instructions. Like you can say exactly that. You say, I don't want to hear about X, Y, and Z. I don't want it, like, I'm not interested.
Right.
This is not playtime. This is business. I don't want to know.
It's like
I don't want. I'm here to get work done.
nobody could say
Christmas is Christmas. Business is business. We're here for business. Sorry. Was there any last questions?
One last thing, can you compare and contrast skills versus memory? It seems like
Yes.
they're interchangeable, but
Yeah.
okay.
So memory is state management. Memory in the example is, okay, I can remember the name of the person who's talking to me when we're interacting. So I can use that name, right? That's chat actually logging that and saving that information. A skill is a set of instructions about how to do a particular task. So if you hire me to paint houses, I can remember what your name is, right? A skill is, do I remember how to paint a house? So it's like a saved instruction about how to do a specific task versus just blanket memory. So like it helps it remember. But the thing is, in skills, and I guess the important distinction of like why do we create skills to begin with at all, is because as you start to add instructions, it becomes more and more for AI to remember. And so if you tell it, hey, I'm gonna tell you right now in this chat how to write a newsletter, and then and then 2 months goes by, and you're like, hey, let's write a newsletter. The odds of it remembering how to do that are a lot lower because you probably would have talked about a lot of other things in the meantime. And so a skill is just a saved piece of reference, so it doesn't have to remember that. It's like writing it down in a manual.
So would you take a memory and make it a skill? Like if I wanted to remember your name, like this guy does this, and just remember his name for
Yeah.
the next time I call him.
You wouldn't make it you wouldn't make something as simple as that a skill. You want to make a skill out of anything that's a repetitive process. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to ask you to write a newsletter, and that's going to be a pretty regular thing. Instead of you understanding it in this chat, because I know you get it right now, but instead of me having to, it's like us reporting this. Instead of me having to like tell you, you have to remember 100% of what I'm going to say for the next 2 days. We're going to record it. So if 6 weeks from now, like you have a question about it, you have something you can reference, and you know you don't have to remember it. A skill is just a written down state, and they're literally written. You'll see it. They're literally like written skills, so that AI just knows, hey, when I need to write a newsletter, I have a skill called write a newsletter. I'm gonna go read that real quick, freshen up to make sure I'm like top of mind, and then I'm gonna go do the thing. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Yeah. 2 more, and then we'll move on. Go for it.
So just for clarity, if you're entering, say for example, your name and mission, and you're telling it you want to write in that tone, you would put that in the skill session or in the memory so that it pulls for the skill.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, don't worry about memory, because memory is more of like an LLM decision and like a platform. What you can control is the instructions. And so you can say, here's the tone that we write in. And when we work here, I want you to do that. And I have that in my example after the break too, where you kind of write those. And the first thing that when I write the instructions, I'm gonna ask AI to help me do it so that you guys can see how to like do that. You don't have to like write all of that, but that is the best place to put it. You're reminding it, this is how we do things.
In the skill.
In the skill or the instruction. Yeah, those are kind of interchangeable depending on your platform. Yeah. And then Rachel, you had one, and then I'll
Literally the same.
okay, great. A twofer. Okay, choosing your platform. How many people are already like using a paid plan on a platform? You're good, you're locked in, you're happy. Okay. How many people still are like, I don't know to me? Okay. The biggest thing I will say is that it's a lot of kind of tomato. So I would first alleviate some of the pressure that you may or may not feel about choosing the wrong platform. That said, there are some. The big three in particular all have different features that are not necessarily exclusive, but that are trademarks of their platform. So there's probably one that's going to be a better fit for you. You can migrate from one to the other if you decide in 6 months from now you want to change your mind. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do because they obviously don't want you to go from one to the other, but you can at any point decide to export all of your information or content out of a platform. If you choose to take your ball and go home, you can do that. It is something that you have access to. You can export it and it will say, here's everything I have. Take your files. Now you have to move those files into a new platform if you decide to change, which is a little bit of housekeeping. So you can decide to do that, but it is possible. You can't always get your stuff out and then go and migrate to a different platform if there's something that is a better fit for where you are. So if you're deciding, these next series of slides are going to help you kind of understand some of the differences. If you're already using a paid version and you're happy with it, great. These next series of slides are going to let you know what the other platform strengths are. because there's many use cases. I have two paid. Like I pay for chat and I pay for Claude because I use them for different things. And so it'll help you understand kind of the right task for the right tool, or help you make recommendations to other people, or decide kind of what's a good fit for you. And then we'll take a break. Okay. So the key differentiators and strengths of the big three. Claude is the best writing quality, and I know many of the people in the room have kind of experienced that. I work in communications, so writing is a big deal for me. And so that's why I personally do like probably 80% of my work in co-work, is because it's the best, I think, for writing, particularly nonprofit writing, because it tends to take a more empathetic and natural sounding voice. It's a little bit less corporate. Co-work, which is their workspace, is the most flexible right now of anything on the market. It has the best capacity for, it's like the only one can work with local folder access, which means you can have a folder on your desktop that is the sandbox in which Claude can access and play within. And anything you put in that folder is fair game for Claude, and anything outside of that folder on your desktop is a no-go zone. So that's like one of the easiest privacy setting mechanics that you can have, is you can tell Claude, hey, if it's in this folder, it's all yours. And it won't just jump outside of that and take over your laptop and do anything you don't want it to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that local folder access is huge, and it does have the most kind of functionality and is really user friendly. They also have skills, which is universal instructions. And so right now they really are the furthest along when it comes to workspaces. That said, a lot of people are comfortable in ChatGPT, which is fine. It's the most widely recognized, and Chat is really trying to become the best fit and partner with Microsoft 365. That's the angle that they're taking to try to get a competitive advantage. So if you have a Microsoft environment by and large in your organization, then Chat is going to provide you with the best connectivity currently as of today, June 17th. And that is something that they're really kind of doubling down on as being able to create a competitive advantage for themselves. So I see that going on probably in the future. They do have shareable custom workspaces just like anyone else, but the biggest unique differentiator I would say for them is, outside of a few kind of like little features that are cool, is the 365 fit. Gemini is Google, so of course they have the best integration with all things Google, Google Drive, Google Gmail, Google Calendar, Gmail, and they're the only ones that have all the keys to being able to work with all of that stuff. Because obviously, if you want to access all of that stuff, they want you to use their platform. So what I'll say is you can connect Google Drive to Chat, and you can connect Google Drive to Claude, but it comes with some real constraints. The constraint predominantly, because I hooked up Google Drive to Claude like day one, and I was like, this is going to be so easy. It's not. But lies. What Claude and Chat will do with Google Drive is Claude can go in there and it can read the things that are in there, but it can't edit stuff that's in there. It can't change stuff that's in there. And the files that it can read have to be native Google files. So Google Docs and Google Sheets. If you have Google Docs and Google Sheets in your Drive and you connect Claude, you can say, hey, go read all that stuff, or go find this for me. Or like Rachel, I think, mentioned with OneDrive, similar thing. She said, can you remind me what the key points from this were? Can you review my impact report and see where we can make updates to our programs, yada, yada, yada. It's there. It can read it. It can tell you what's there. It can tell you what it can see. It can't read PDFs in there. You'd have to convert them to a Google Doc. You'd have to click the button that says, make this a Google Doc, which is slightly annoying because it's one more step. It's not going to be able to read sheets that aren't Google Sheets, because Gemini wants you to use their tool to do that. So it gives a window into Google Drive so that you can research and like see what's in there, but you can't ask it when it finds a particular doc for you to go ahead and start changing it. It's going to say, I can't change it. It's in Google Drive. I can rewrite it here, and then you can change it and update it. I use this feature the most for like saving things. I can automatically save anything I want from Claude into Google Drive, and you can for Chat, and that's really helpful because then it's easy for me to just share that. Or if it's a folder that's already shared with my team, great, save this to that folder, and they already have access to it. So I'm not affected too much by the read or write, but that is a constraint that Gemini doesn't have. That's their competitive advantage. If you want full access to your whole Google universe and you want to be able to read it, to write it, to edit it, to find it, to do all things under the sun, then Gemini wants you to use their workspace and their setup. They're going to give a little bit of access to the other people, but that's how they're trying to pay their bills.
Is that true of Google Calendar as well?
Google Calendar as well. You can have like access to being able to see it and edit it. I do have for Claude, like Claude can go in because it's connected to like my Gmail and it will like add something to my calendar, but there's still some like which is a Google Calendar, but it's still limited compared to what Gemini can do as far as like the access. So that's how each of them are kind of making their own claim in the space. Yes, miss.
I've seen several of us work with high tiers of PII. Do you have a recommendation on which can work the best with encrypted data?
Room hosts?
I-
I don't. Do you have? Does anyone have any experience with encrypted data? And which platform might work best with encrypted data?
What are you trying?
Well, call it
Yeah.
or analysis or something with HIPAA, working with high tiers of PII data. You're limiting its access, things like that. So you're going to give it encrypted data.
Sure, yeah, we can talk about that. So there's ways to put your AI in case.
Is there a recommendation between them or
Oh,
other?
so you can use all of these, like Gemini's the easiest one. Let's say you have a cloud instance. You can put Gemini Versal or Vertex or something. Is the one that you can have live in your own environment and not be trainable or access accessible by,
Yeah, if you're trying.
But it requires it requires another layer of infrastructure on the part of your business in order to be able to do it, but it's 100%.
Yeah.
So he's talking about like from free to pay to, and then there's sort of that would be like the third level. We have our own Google Cloud instance, and inside of that, which we're paying for, that's good. And you can, because I do a contract with CPH, and we have PII inside that.
So I think you guys should talk.
Yeah, that was
I think to answer part of your question, when it comes to doing work with any of that data, any of them could do it. But I think you're asking more about
It
like
would need to remain in
concentric circles
Yeah.
of privacy, which there's a few different ways to set that up. One would be like if you're using Gemini, like he was talking about, having a local instance, which means it's not on a separate server, which you could do. There's also advisors for all three of these platforms that work with specific credentials and things like HIPAA and compliance. And I would highly encourage you to look that up, or you can open up any one of these and ask it, like, who can I talk to about HIPAA compliance with chat specifically? And they will point you in the right direction, or at least get you some leads, because that's a whole different emerging conversation over the last 6 months of what does that look like and how do we go about doing that responsibly. So if you have a specific credential or like HIPAA, then you can find people who know specifically about that one instance. Yeah. Pricing, also a little tomato. There are discounts for teams. It runs on Claude and chat via GoodStack. You guys know about GoodStack? It's like a TechSoup. If anyone has gotten discounts on software via TechSoup, Claude and chat both contract with GoodStack in order to offer nonprofit discounts for their team accounts on the platforms. So I believe you have to have your nonprofit on GoodStack, which is a free profile setup in order to be on there. GoodStack essentially verifies that you are a nonprofit in good standing and that you're listed on there, which means you are eligible for the discount. And so GoodStack kind of handles that part of it for Claude or for chat. They will say, they will ask them and they'll say, hey, we got to verify with GoodStack that you're eligible and that you're being honest, and then we'll give you the discount. And GoodStack does that. I think, Rachel, this is what you guys set up, right? I think it's like $5 to $6 a month.
Yeah.
They have a minimum of 5 seats, so you're talking like $25, $30 a month in order to have 5 people on a paid instance, which does increase the level of privacy going from a free account to a paid account. We talked a little bit more about this in AI 101 as well. So find me if you want to have the conversation of like how to navigate that. But you could start, if you do something like this, you could start to think about it like handing somebody a company email. You're like, here's the tool at your disposal. It is for work purposes only. And this is how we conduct ourselves and the things you put in here and the things you do not put in here. And this is our expectation for you. And if we part ways, then you won't have access to this anymore. It's like it's a company software login. So that's how it's going there. Chat does the same thing. OpenAI. Gemini is a little tricky here. They do have a discount, and they also have a free tier for nonprofits that has, I think they say like up to 2,000 free seats on it. Couple fine print things for y'all. Yes. And if you have the free tier, you don't get the benefit of all of the Google connection, read, write access stuff. You can have access to the workspace, but your free plan is not going to help you edit and look at things in Google Drive, Calendar, Gmail, even if you're using Gemini, if you're on the free plan. I recommend everybody's on a paid plan anyway. Trust me, it's way better for you than it is for them. All of them are still losing money on paid plans, chat in particular. So it's just going to be better privacy protection for you. So the free tier is available, and you can get everybody in your organization that is on Gemini today for free, but you're not going to have access to the main reason you're going to get it, which is to have access to all the Drive and all of that kind of stuff. So it's worth paying. The other trick with Gemini is it's all or nothing. The reason they have the lowest user per month price is because if somebody in your organization wants to go onto Gemini, they have your @foodbank.com like address, right? You have your custom domain email address for your organizations. They can't just go and sign up. The person who is the admin for that Google domain needs to say yes to everybody who has an email address getting access to Gemini at the same time, right? You can't just add people individually. It's either your whole team and everybody on this list gets access and is on a paid plan, whether they use it or not, or nobody is, if you have an organization level. If you just personally have a Gmail account, so I can't do this. I tried on a few of the like client email addresses that I have, but I can't. I need the nonprofit to say, yes, everyone who has a twinlakesfoodbank.org account has now paid access to Gemini. But I can't do it on my own personal Gmail account because I'm just an individual user, and you can go on and you can sign yourself up and you can start using the paid Gemini account. But for organizations, it's all or nothing, which is the reason that they have the lowest user per month is because if you have 35 people who have an email address and only 10 of them are going to use it, you're paying for all 35. Does that make sense? So those are the little nuances within the pricing. Claude Cowork has a minimum of 5, but outside of that, if you just wanted to add one more person, you just sign them up for you just add a seat and you can kind of go as you want. Team access, this is pretty tomato. You can share projects on team plans. Chat, you can share any of the custom workspaces you build. So if you have projects and you want to share them with someone else on your team, so you guys can collaborate on a project, or so they can copy your homework, or so they can benefit from the fact that you have already set up a workspace that does this, and now they can jump in and do it with you too. You can do that. So you can share projects and you can share folders for people who have, if you're on a team account. You can't do it like personal account to personal account. Quick reminder on the privacy there, like shared visibility, right? Creates shared access. So if you are running a payroll workspace project and then you invite somebody else on your team to the payroll project, that person can see just as much of that payroll project as you can. Same way as if you just gave somebody the login to your QuickBooks, like you're trusting another human being that like you can have access to this. So when you share folders, it's shared visibility between those folders with the person you choose to do business with in that way. Okay? Share response. And then a little bit of platform vocabulary. I've been saying tomato, tomato a lot. Here are the vegetables themselves. Across the board, persistent workspace, projects, gems or notebooks. Is anyone using Gemini like for these 2 mornings together? Couple. So you'll see yours will be called notebooks. When I talk about projects, I'm talking about notebooks for you. Same thing, same feature, different name, right? Branding. Saved instructions. If you're using Claude Cowork, that's skills. But when I talk about skills, I'm talking about custom instructions, and I'm talking about gem or notebook instructions. It's all this. It's the same feature, the same thing. I'm just talking about it different ways. Files for knowledge base, sources. I'll also have since tomorrow we're gonna do more like walk around, like building and everything together. I'll have a cheat sheet for you of all the vocabulary and some slides and everything for you tomorrow, so you don't have to remember all of this when we go through it. Same thing, like artifacts, canvas, it's all the same stuff. It's just kind of called different things. So feel free to raise your hand at any point and also ask as we're going through it to remember. I just wanted to give you guys a visual to understand that the vocabulary changes, but what we're covering in 201 is the same kinds of features that are universally applied across them. So it's not, when I say skills, it doesn't mean you can't add instructions to chat, right? It's just kind of a different thing across the platforms. Okay. I think I've got all 3 platforms have desktop apps. I really recommend that you download the app. I can see the Claude one is amazing. So it's worth it. The views are a little bit different, browser versus desktop as well. Same stuff is there. It's just the desktop app for all of them means you don't have to open a browser window and then go to Claude or go to chat. You just have the app on your desktop, and the usability of it is better. It runs a little bit quicker, in my opinion. It's less clutter on your desktop, so you don't have to open the browser window. So if you already have a paid plan for one, download the desktop app. It's 100% worth it. And okay, any questions before we get to stuff after the break? We'll do questions and then we'll do a quick break.
Other than the comments you made about was an app versus property tab, are there any other pluses to using the app outside of the property tab than one?
It's just better functionality. It's easier. Like there's more that's within there that makes it it's more user friendly. I'd say.
Even if you're not using workspaces?
Yeah. I'd say even for the chat probably. Yeah. Yes, Ms. Piper.
So you just mentioned for private. Is ChatGPT gonna power? Or what? How does that work?
The room host.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll defer because he is. Yeah.
So it's just the branding that
Yeah.
is being run.
Cool. Any other questions? Okay, cool. We'll come back at 10:40. Brad, you wanted to do a 10-minute or? Okay, 10:40. Thank you guys.